everything's going to be recorded from now on. So anyone starts swearing, John, right? It'll be recorded and used in evidence against you.
All right.
So is your son still there? Yes, he is. So who have we got tonight? Names? We've got John,
Courtney, and Alexia.
And David.
I'm David.
Courtney.
My name's Alexia, but you can call me Lexi.
Courtney's the one with Courtney's the one with a blue top on, and Alexia's the one with they both got a can in their hand, actually.
She's one with a blonde hair, and I'm the one with
and
that's Courtney.
Yeah,
that's Alexia.
Yeah, I've had an experience with Alexia. She was the most annoying girl I've never not come across.
I bet, and her friend.
Oh God, she was a pain in the vehicles.
Yeah.
She's a lovely girl.
And Amy's hair matches her wall.
Yes,
it does.
Doesn't it? I like a bit of ginger.
I'm not ginger, I'm red.
Right. So what I would like to do, right? We need to start off, right? Amy, right?
Hello.
Introduce yourself in a child-friendly way.
Okay. Hi, I'm Amy. I'm a person that knows how to speak to ghosts. So on these walks that I do with Carl, I've talked to a few ghosts. I've even seen ghosts. So
I thought she said ghosts. I thought you said ghosts.
No, ghosts. So, Amy, occasionally we're getting sound problems from you, but don't worry, we got most of that. The two girls thought you said you talked to goats, but I actually talk to goats. I'm the man who speaks to goats because I got two pet goats. Isn't that right, John?
Yes, very true.
Right. So, what I'd like to start off with is, John, do you believe in ghosts?
Sorry?
Do you believe in ghosts?
Well, as a spiritualist healing medium, I've got to say yes.
Okay. What about Alexia? Do you believe in ghosts?
No. Yeah.
No, yeah.
Actually.
What about? Go on. Oh God.
Because I used to always have dreams that I could fly across my bedroom, and then I would see a ghost coming out of my wardrobe.
Well, that's your granddad, isn't it?
You mean my wardrobe? No, it was when we was in our bedroom.
And what about you, Courtney Rice?
Courtney Rice. Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
And Amy obviously does believe in ghosts.
I know a few.
Now, can I tell you all a little story, right? It all started right now. The whole point of these evenings, right, tonight, was that we had very popular ghost walks before this terrible thing that's happening to all of us. And the last one we had 30 bookings, and we had about 26 people turn up, didn't we, Amy? So that was great. And we thought people would like to have little evenings listening to conversations about ghosts. And tonight we're going to be looking at OGMORE Castle. So that is OGMORE Castle in front of us. But I would like to tell you a little story to start off with. Okay? A proper ghost story. So I think Granddad's fire alarm's gone off.
It's the quickest he's ever moved in his life, Alice.
Well, that's what?
Steady on now, my boy.
No, that isn't fair, David. Somebody threatened to take his bottle of Lambrusco away.
Yeah, that he would move a lot quicker then. You're right. Yeah. Or if it was closing time in the off license and he had a couple of minutes together, then he'd move quick as well.
Is it true? No, is it true when he worked on? Is it true when he worked on Arriva Trains Wales in his little trolley? He used to have a big bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but I nicked it off him once. He chased me down the train with a can of Coke.
Yeah,
So right, a little story. When I originally started off doing ghost walks, it was the year was 2015. I met a very strange looking woman with a wonky tooth and red hair called Michelle, who is a proper witch, and she's got her own broomstick as well. Isn't that right, Michelle? She seems to have left the room. And she convinced me what we should do. We should actually do ghost walks. And I thought, right, this isn't a good idea because I don't actually believe in ghosts. So hang on, I didn't ask your opinion. I didn't actually believe in ghosts. Anyway, when we had our first proper ghost walk, I think it was July 2015 when we had our first proper ghost walk. When we went to a place called Monk Nash and we went towards the coast, it was a feeling that we were being followed. We've been followed all the way to the coast and we're being followed all the way back. And then when we went, I didn't think anything of it. Anyway, I was telling different historical stories and ghost stories, and that's what we were doing. Anyway, so we went to Dunraven Castle to recce out a ghost walk, and we had a real sense of atmosphere. So do you know what? Do you two girls know where Dunraven Castle is?
No. Is it that place that's on my screen?
No.
It's very near Ogmore Castle, right? But it was a castle that was knocked down in 1962. Anyway, when Michelle sat on the steps there and we were chatting away, she said, "Oh my God, did you just see that black cat?" And I said, "No." And a black cat had run out from a solid stone wall across the car park. And then we started feeling on the way back in the dust time that we were being followed by various ghostly things. And I slowly started to be convinced that ghosts exist. But I'm not going to say any more about that because I will tell you more about that next week. So you have to join us next week, John. There you go.
Oh, okay.
So that'll be more money we can extort out of you. Anyway, so there's one good thing. There's one good thing, David, right? At least your granddad's got loads of money now.
Yeah, all the bats come out of his wallet all the time, though.
I got hit by a wasp once, exactly. And it stung me. Right, okay. Ogmore Castle. What do we know about Ogmore Castle? What is the river that you can see in front of us now, alongside the castle? What's the name of that river alongside Ogmore Castle?
It's called, I don't know.
River Ogmore?
River.
Oh.
Now, Amy, hopefully you've been listening. What is the name of the river alongside Ogmore Castle?
Oh, crikey, I ought to know this.
I think Amy's frozen. Amy's frozen in time. She's almost become.
I hear you. Sorry.
What's the name of the river alongside Ogmore Castle?
The River Ueni.
It's the River Ueni. Which is a very strange little fact. Very strange little fact. So fascinating things to say about Ogmore Castle is that it used to be alongside the two rivers that opened out into this area, because on the right there, where all the green stuff on the left, on the right, you can see those little horse-like shaped things there. So we get the cursor in. Those are a load of horses there, right? The River Ueni and the River Ogmore met here, right? And hence they called Ogmore after the biggest river, which was the Ogmore River. Unfortunately, over time, the courses of the rivers have changed and all the rest of it. So things are completely changed. So the bit of excitement when you go to Ogmore Castle is when you actually park your car where that car is there. You see that little car? And so the best thing to do, girls, right, is go to Ogmore Castle, right, when there's going to be a high tide. Ask your granddad when there's going to be a high tide. Get your dad, David, who's not listening to this, to park in that car park. And by the time you go to the castle and then you go back to your car will be floating down the river.
Oh, well, that sounds like a good place to park your car then.
It does sound like a good place to park your car.
It's a good place to That's fishing, Carl. There, actually, which is a thought.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, the one thing is, John, right? We would love to see you fishing, right? So to give some of the mysteries of the castle, right? This is how we're going to embarrass Grandad, okay, girls? It's time to embarrass Grandad. It's time to make a fool of your Grandad, right? He deserves to be made a fool of, right? So, John, big question, right? At one time, on the left-hand side here of the castle, where you can see the cursor, right? So if we enlarge the castle a little bit more, on the left-hand side, this was all boggy and marshy, right? When the castle was originally built. Now, we'll tell you who built the castle in a short while, but we're not going to do that yet. And on this side, there was these two big bits of river, right? Now, John, are these ancient stepping stones that go across the River Ueni today, if they needed to bring ships into the harbour at the back of the castle? Because this here is actually a harbour, right? And the original entranceway into the castle wasn't here, and wasn't here simply because this was all marshy, right? And there was no tracks or roads going to it, right? This was the original entrance in the castle. And you were only able to get access to the castle from what's known as a port gate, from the harbour here. So does that mean that these stepping stones were there when there was a harbour at the back of the castle about 900 years ago? What's the answer, John?
Well, I suspect that at high tide, ships could float over the top of the stepping stones if they existed back then, but maybe that's just me speaking. But I'll stick with that. I think at high tide, the ships could have sailed over the top of the stepping stones.
Right. Amy, can you still sort of see the stepping stones when there's a high tide from the castle? Oh, I wish Amy's sound was better.
No, you can't see them, but you can see them. But it's like you can see them from under the water. Then.
Yes, more. You can sort of still see them, John. So in other words, the answer is they are not ancient stepping stones, simply because there's no way you could have got a vessel up the river. And the other thing as well is what we're talking about. We're talking about a time that the level of water may have been a little bit lower than it is today. So that's the answer. But I didn't want to embarrass you then at all, John. I just wanted to ask you a simple question.
Because yes, there'd be less water, wouldn't there, because of the ice melting, or not melting so much, I suppose.
Because at the time that this castle is actually built in about the 1100s, the temperature is slightly different than it is today, and the water along our coastline is very different. And by the 1300s, there was by 1315, in the medieval period, there was something called the mini ice age, and the mini ice age meant that, of course, the water would have been a lot lower than it is today. So hence, those stepping stones would have got sort of in the way. So what I'd like to do is tell you a little bit of a story about water. Has anyone ever heard of something known as the Keffel Dŵr, which is otherwise known as the water horse? John?
No.
Have you ever heard of the Keffel Dŵr, Alexia?
I've heard of a kettle.
Yeah, I've heard of a kettle.
Every time you answer in a silly way, you get this, okay?
But you might as well keep that on.
Get what?
Yeah, thanks a lot. So basically, so if Alexia, right? If you ever go for a drive up the Brecon Beacons with Grandad, right, and you see a horse, a very white, strange-looking horse, stand in the middle of the road, right? Make sure you don't get out the car, all right? And the reason why you don't get out the car is that when your Grandad gets out the car, the horse will entice your Grandad to jump on the horse's back. And suddenly, Yes, John. Yes, John. But because we got children around, I can't tell you what happens if a girl jumps onto the back of the horse. Maybe another.
Never.
Anyway, so as you jump onto the back of the horse suddenly leaps up into the air and flies through the air. And if you can't ride that horse properly, Alexia will be left all alone in that car. And suddenly, if the horse thinks you can't ride it properly, it'll suddenly disappear and you'll crash all the way down to the ground and you won't be found for days. And people will think you've been drinking a lot. Mind you, there'll be nothing new there. So that's...
We'd go back into horse riding then, innit? When I was Alexia's age.
So, I need to put my little hat on. Now, John, this beats all the hats that you ever worn, hasn't it?
That's a Mad Hatter's hat.
This is... Michelle, don't we have a Mad Hatter's hat? We do have a Mad Hatter's hat. We certainly do. Right. So, what we're going to do now, we're going to tell you a couple of other little stories, and then we're going to tell you the very spooky, haunted story about OGMORE. But Amy, we're going to have to do the child-friendly version, aren't we?
Yes, we will have to do the child-friendly version.
Because John might get a little bit upset. Okay.
Oh, yes, very upset.
So what we will do in about 10 minutes, we'll take a little drink break, because your granddad needs a good old drink, isn't that right, David?
Yes, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, he needs to drink wine.
Right now, behind that farm building, what we're going to do, we're gonna try and move this over there, right? All good of technology. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at the castle from another angle. So what we've got, and then when we go back again, we go. Those are the stepping stones. You can probably tell they're not ancient. And then we go to here. And we go back to the castle. So I'm going to tell you two little stories. And we've already lost Courtney. Where's Courtney gone?
I don't know. I think she's gone to the toilet.
Too much detail. Right, behind that building, is a little bit further on is the farm, right? And it's the riding stables. Amazing. And it was recorded in the 1800s that they found what's referred to as two Roman parade helmets, and those two Roman parade helmets are these really powerful metal helmets, right, which were used by Roman cavalrymen, and they actually found a few swords, all those nearly 200 years back. And unfortunately, somebody was meant to take them to an expert to be looked at, and they disappeared, like many things that disappear within this landscape. And what I've got to tell you is another little story. So the landscape is full of strange things that go bump in the night. And as we're all in lockdown and we've got this terrible thing known as the pandemic, a thing beginning with C, we can't do tonight without mentioning the plague. So we've got to go straight into the plague. The reason where we're going to go straight into the plague is as follows. Now, back in the time that this castle was in full swing, by about the 1300s, the lord of the manor wouldn't have been at the castle. He'd have left a custodian there to look after the castle. By about 1315, crops started to fail. People were planting their crops. And after they had planted their crops, there would be thunderstorms, and the crop would be damaged. And for about 30 years, people weren't really eating properly because the crops were failing. What we've got something called the mini ice age, and then terrible things we know were written about in the history. It's very likely that in the year 1349, a small ship sailed up the river Ogmore. And then it berthed in this little harbour at the back of the castle. Nothing was unusual. It was 1349. And they were dropping off supplies into the castle. Probably grain, probably some materials for the wife of the custodian to make into new garments, and barrels of wine. And back then, they had a penchant for cheese and butter. But the important ingredient in this story is what was found amongst the material that was dropped off into the castle. The ship then sailed further up the river. And what happened further up the river was that now in 1349, there's a major outbreak of plague. Not just the bubonic plague, but the pneumonic plague. And also another plague known as the septicemic plague. Each of those plagues are very terrible. If you get the bubonic plague back then, you would have had about a 50% chance of living. And then if you had the pneumonic plague, you would have had about a 30% chance of living. And with the septicemic plague, you had basically a 0 chance of living. And all this was spread by the little flea. And that little flea had hopped onto some of those items of material that were to be made into garments. As they were given to the wife or the custodian, she took them upstairs, and the little fleas hopped around, biting the custodian wife's arm. And as she started to make the material into garments, she started to fall ill. And as she cuddled up with her husband, he was then bitten by one of these fleas. And then the grain was taken into the kitchen. This over here is the kitchen area. Yeah, this is the kitchen area where the cursor is showing. Jumping out of the grain would have been more fleas, because those fleas would have wanted to be attracted to the warmth of those in the kitchen, biting the cook, biting the servants. And it's likely within about 3 or 4 days, everyone was seriously ill within the castle. Everyone was so ill within the castle that it's likely within about 7 or 8 days, most people were dead. And at that moment onwards, it's likely that very few people survived. But the terrible thing about the story is, one thing I've forgotten to say, on the first day after the ship had come into the harbour, one of the local villagers decided to visit the castle and pay their tax. And they said, well, you know, here's my tax money, a couple of pennies. And the lady of the wife of the custodian had a chat with one of the villagers. And unwittingly, a flea had hopped on to the individual and bit this individual. And then they went to the village of Ogmore by Sea. And most of the people within 7 to 10 days died in the village of Ogmore by Sea. Now, all of these things we relatively know. And most of the people would have been taken to a local church to be buried. And the terrible tragedy is of this, that 50 years later, there's a very famous individual in history called Owain Glyndŵr. And Owain Glyndŵr is said to have visited this area 50 years later, and the castle was still deserted. Most of the villages at Ogmore by Sea were gone. But unfortunately, Owain Glyndŵr, the Prince of Wales, he had a rebellion to fight the English. He was blamed for destroying the village of Ogmore by Sea and burning the castle down at Ogmore. But alas, there was nobody living there. It was completely abandoned. It was a ghost of a castle. So what I'd like to do at this stage, I want to do an hour tonight, so we'll have a little bit of a break for a few minutes, maybe. But before we go on to that, and we'll do half an hour after this, and we'll tell you the terrible story of the White Lady of OGMORE Castle. Before we go on to that, are there any questions? John, have you got anything to say? And there's something rather important I want to say after we've asked questions. So, John, have you got any questions you want to ask?
Well, I mean, being with you to ask for the Owen Glendower thing, is there actually anything written in stone about this alleged siege or non-siege of Ogmore, or is it just a myth or legend?
Well, actually, there's nothing mythological about it at all. Because what happened? I think it was probably about 10, 15 odd years after, you know, the Owen Glendower revolt and all the rest of it. A letter's written to the king for help to rebuild the courthouse building, which is this building where the cursor's showing here. And the reason why the courthouse building needed to be rebuilt was because this is the building that they accepted the taxes at. This is the building that people would need to come if they had to be tried, and we're gonna have a little mock trial after the break as well. Alexia is going to be accused of nicking a loaf of bread, but we'll do that after the break. So we do know that the money was given to the custodian of the castle to rebuild it. So we know that's a fact. We also know that it's written down that Owen Glendower was said to have burnt down the villages of Ogmore by sea. We've got all that stuff written down. But the other thing as well is there's nothing really going on at the castle leading up to about 1400. So we know the castle relatively deserted. So Owen Glendower's been blamed, but it's not right that he's been blamed. Right, so we're going to have a little break now because I'm going to have this cup of tea. I want to ask if Alexia, Courtney Rice, or David Haley has got anything to say.
Yeah, I have.
Oh, go, give it to us, Alexa.
No.
Right, stop.
Do you think there's a ghost in this creepy doll?
Oh, don't treat your little sister like that.
It's a doll, see? Give it.
Right,
Actually, Amy, do you want to get your little doll out after the break?
I'm in my room. I've got a lot of dolls in here.
Well, we need to get a doll out after the break. If there's no more questions, right, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and I'm sure that if you want to ask Amy anything, she will speak to you. So I'm going to have a 5-minute break, and then we'll carry on for half an hour. So nobody go away. I will be back.
Okay, no problem.
Amy,
Hello.
are you SNU accredited?
Yes, I am. So if you want to talk about dolls or anything, do you know I got a ghost in this room?
No.
Do you want to see? How have I got a ghost in this room?
Yeah. Have you got a ghost?
I wonder where there's a ghost. Oh, there's a ghost.
We're playing with the doll. You just see.
Oh, you have a lovely dolly, and I have a lot of dollies, and I've been collecting them since I was 6 years old. But I don't think there's a ghost in your dolly.
Sorry, right.
Have you heard of Annabelle?
Yeah. I have her.
I've got.
You have Annabelle, but you have a doll that you call Annabelle. Yeah. No, I have a doll that is Annabelle.
Because, hang on, let's hope I don't lose my signal. I've got a very, very prized doll, and I love it so much, and she's Annabelle.
Oh.
The real Annabelle.
That's scary.
Oh, she won't hurt you. But do you have any questions?
Yeah. Do you ever get like nightmares at night that one of your dolls will like come up and tickle you or anything?
Well, actually, I have a thing called sleep paralysis, which is when you're half asleep and half awake, right? And once I had my eyes closed and I was still. I was paralyzed, and it felt like that somebody was actually sweeping my doll's hair in my face. But it was only a dream. That's what we got to remember. It wasn't real. I don't have bad dreams about my dolls or any dreams about them. But I do have spirits visit me in my dreams.
What does that mean?
People who've died, people who've passed on to the other side, they visited me in my dreams. And also people who are alive, their spirits have visited me in my dreams.
Yeah, because my auntie's dog, he died, and I get dreams about him sometimes.
That was a bit of lamb, man.
Oh, really? That's probably because you miss him as well.
I always cry about him when I eat my... What's
that noise?
I think it's called KARL.
Oh, it's Carl. It's his torch. He's got a torch that makes funny noises.
Show us the torch.
Oh, there he is. Carl, you there? I can see him in the reflection. It's quite obvious you're there. There he is. Have you got any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Other questions? Yeah.
Do you like sleep with a telly on?
No.
What?
There's a question that comes after that question. That relates to that.
I'll get it out then.
What did you say?
Do you have any more questions? And then you were about to ask her a question.
Yeah. Do you when it's dark in your bedroom and you're on your own or something?
Yeah.
Do you ever see anything moving because of the dolls in the corner of your eye?
No, because none of my dolls are haunted. My room is a very safe place, so I don't feel bad or anything bad in my room. But when I go out walking with Carl, I feel really bad. Sometimes I feel really sick and ill because of ghosts. But no, I feel really safe in here, and if anything, my dolls are companions and they're good company.
So you're safe in your bedroom, man, in other words, so you don't think such thing as safe in your bedroom.
Real.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'll be a ghost now in a second.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're gonna disappear, are you?
I'll be a ghost in a second. I'll come back when I'm dead.
There's our crow.
What's that?
It's a real crow.
Oh.
Is it a puppy?
No, she's called Shapey.
What's it?
He looks after injured birds, Lexi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm a ghost.
This is a real crow. She's called Shapey. She's going to fly off now. There you go. So I heard some of that then. So we're gonna have a theme. We're gonna have a. Michelle said we're gonna have a theme tune next week.
Okay.
So John, I'm gonna try and multitask and have my hat on at the same time. There you go.
That's my coat.
Right. Okay. I didn't get anything that you were talking about then, but you know, it's all good stuff, right?
Mhm.
So hang on a minute. This is what your granddad does most of the time. He does this.
That's Daddy.
That's you.
So do you know, when I'm talking to your granddad, I feel as if this is dropping on my head. That's what it feels like. Right. So what we need to do now, we need to put Alexia on trial.
Yes, good idea.
In the courts, go to prison.
No.
No,
Yeah.
you got it all wrong. This is a medieval trial.
Oh, it's even worse, you'll get hung.
Right. Very serious note. John is the lord of the manor, aren't you, John?
Of course, what else could I be?
You have decided to visit OGMORE Castle. Is this correct, John?
Yes.
I do believe that Amy has accused Alexia of stealing some bread. Isn't that right, Alexia?
No. Yes.
Oh,
Well,
you
Amy's
admitted
supposed
it.
to be agreeing.
Yes, of course I agree. I accused her.
Well, exactly. But how did you actually see her stealing the loaf of bread?
No.
Well, I might have.
What do you mean you might have? John, do you believe Amy's allegation against Alexia?
Well, she'll have to come up with some proof. I don't want to give the wrong person 50 lashes.
No, you know the penalty for stealing a loaf of bread. It is by hanging.
Hanging? Oh, my God.
We do not have jails to lock people up in the medieval period, certainly not in South Wales. The nearest jail is at let me think, that place known as Cowbridge. It's a silly little castle outside called St. Quintin's Castle. But we do not have space at St. Quintin's Castle. Alexia needs to be hung, okay? So, Alexia, did you steal a loaf of bread? Yes or no?
No.
Amy, where's your proof?
Have you got the video? Evidence?
Amy,
I haven't. Yeah?
Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Amy, right? Have you got any proof that she stole some bread?
I might, like I said.
John, does Amy look like a witch?
Well, you said she did, but I think she looks lovely.
David, does Amy look like a witch?
No.
No comment.
If somebody accuses Amy of being a witch, she is a witch, and therefore she was lying about Alexia in the first place. The tricks of the devil. Trying
she's a
to
witch.
cause one who's most sainted and pure like Alexia. Amy,
Yeah, she's a
you are a witch.
I'm not a witch.
David, is Amy a witch?
No.
Only somebody who lies that they're a witch is a witch.
But she didn't lie. I did steal the bread.
You did steal a bread. Oh my God!
Wait.
Hang on a minute. This is getting confusing.
That's the whole point.
Oh, get out.
So in other words, right, the point is, right, 1 minute Amy's accusing you of stealing bread, right? You said you didn't steal bread. Amy's got into your head and said that you admit you steal bread. Therefore, that proves Amy's a witch.
Absolutely.
Yeah, gotta be. Yeah.
Amy, you are going to be taken to the place of the tree and you're going to be hung.
Not before I ride off on my broomstick. Ha!
Ah, you see, she's proved it, bingo.
My broomstick.
Anyway, that's our mock little medieval trial. Basically, what would happen in that courthouse building there, in that little building there,
Let me guess, it'll be
basically somebody known as a circuit judge who went around the country, would visit Ogmore, say, every few months. And what they would do, anyone who's been accused of anything like witchcraft or has been accused of anything like stealing bread would be taken to that building and would be put on trial. Usually people are found guilty. However, I've got to say about witches, very, very few witches were ever placed on trial in Wales. Very, very few. And in fact, we've got very few cases of any witches being hung at all in Wales. So in other words, Amy, for some strange reason, flying away on your broomstick as proof that you are a witch, you got away with it.
Yes, I did. Ha ha.
What I'd like to do now, I would like us to move into that building there, right? Can you see the cursor? That building there is actually called the Keep. Now, a keep is basically the main building where people would have gone to in the castle. When I mean gone to, there would have been the hall in there to feed some of your special friends. There would have been something known as a garderobe at the top of the keep building. That's where people would have lived. And what we're going to do, we're going to turn to another image. That building, that part of the building is all that's really left of the keep building that we've just mentioned. But many, many years ago, a gentleman visited the castle, didn't he, Amy?
Yes, he did.
About this time of night. And the gentleman who visited the castle was aware that the castle was haunted by a white lady. Now, the castle, being a haunted castle was nothing unusual. And this gentleman was wandering around the castle thinking where the white lady might be, but it was only dusk time. So the usual thing is, what usually happens after 12 o'clock is mostly in the area. This is when buildings like this, the ghosts start to come out. And when ghosts start to come out, they can be very fearsome. And one such ghost once existed at Ogmore Castle. And it's likely that the ghost doesn't frequent Ogmore Castle anymore. But over 200 years ago, this gentleman decided to visit the castle after 12 o'clock at night, visiting the castle after midnight. And he heard that occasionally a white witch is seen wandering around the castle. He didn't know anything about this witch other than that story. And he looked around the keep building, which was fairly ruinous. And as he left the keep building this one evening, he looked back and he saw a shadowy figure. And this shadowy figure turned out to be the white lady. And as he looked around, he could see this eerie figure. And as he got closer and closer, looking around the doorway, he saw this eerie figure of a white witch, a white lady, a white grach, or whatever you would like to refer to as, a fairly terrifying looking woman hiding something behind a stone in the wall. And then he came away from the doorway, and the white witch went to the other side of the keep and took something out of the wall, and then went to the other side of the wall and hid whatever this is behind the stone. And he thought, that's very interesting. It seemed that what he was looking at may be gold. So anyway, the next night, he decided to go back at midnight. And he went just before the time that he had seen the white witch there. And he went to this area of the wall where there was a stone, and he put his hand in there, and he came out with a gold coin. Now there's a little bit of a story I need to tell you with this, right? If you'd have taken out one gold coin and left the other coins there and just wandered away, it would have been okay. But isn't it true, Amy, that lots of these ghost stories are about being too greedy?
Yes, it is. They're like little lessons in a way.
They are like little lessons.
Yes.
Now, as the story goes, he decided to take another coin and another coin, and he then felt that there was no more coins there. So he quickly ran away from the castle, and he had 3 gold coins. Each of these gold coins was probably more than he would earn in a whole year, right? It was a lot of money to him. And he thought, wow, I've got 3 gold coins, the magic number 3 or the magic number 7. And what did he do then? Amy, tell us, did he go back the following night?
Yes, he did.
And that's not a good thing to do, is it?
Mm-mm.
No, it's not. Bad man. He was a very greedy man, and he thought, right, I think that maybe if I go back the following night, on the 3rd night, I might see her putting more coins behind that stone. And there, in that moment, he thought, I need to get to the castle just before the time that I saw her, right? Unfortunately, he was delayed on the way. He got a bit distracted. He saw something in the distance wandering across the moors. And he thought, that's very strange. And he looked at this figure wandering across the moors. By the time he realized, about 5 or 10 minutes had gone by. So he went to OGMORE Castle, and he got the time wrong. So as he went to the stone, he fumbled around in the dark, right? He put his hand into the stone, and lo and behold, there was 1 gold coin. And he thought, wow, I've got another gold coin. Unfortunately, the ghost was standing behind him. She was not a very happy ghost at all. She was so angry, she went to grab at him. And she got her claws out, and the man was very afraid. Lots of ghosts you can't touch, but this ghost can touch you. There's a slight difference there. Sometimes you can go to grab a ghost and there's nothing there, right? Other times a ghost can grab at you. Very interesting, this bit. And he got very afraid. He thought, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? So he moved around the room to get to the door. And as he got to the door, she scrammed at him on his arm. And she scrammed at the back of his neck. And he screamed, and as he left the room, she scrammed at him again. He fell over, and she scrammed at his leg, and he had all these scram marks all over him. And the gold coin that he dropped. Unlike most greedy people, he had the 3 gold coins that he had the night before. And he dropped all 3 coins and the 1 he had collected that evening. And then he ran from the castle. He ran as fast as he can, right? The next day, he woke up very, very late in his home to a knock on the door. And the gentleman who come to the door, he said, you look very ill, to this gentleman who'd been to the castle. Yes, I don't feel well. The next day, he went for a walk. And somebody described the man as having all the life drained out of him. On the 3rd day, the man had died. And everyone in the village said that it was probably because he visited the castle. He had the curse of the witch on him. He had the curse of the White Lady. And people vowed never to go to the castle at midnight. Because if you ever see the White Lady, she won't let you go without exacting her revenge. Now I'm going to go into 2 different directions here. What is the point of this story? Amy's already said it's about being greedy. It's a lesson, but there's another reason. But I'm going to tell you one other thing. I was in I was in Greece once, on the island of Rhodes, and I was with friends, and they basically said, well, if you pay for the flight, we'll pay for the accommodation, and we'll look after you, i.e. they pay for the food, right? But when I got to Greece and the island of Rhodes, they changed their minds. They said, well, we only wanted you out here because we wanted a man with us to look after us, right? So I didn't have any money for food, right? So I decided to swim in the sea to find some coins, right? And guess what? This is a true story now. I was swimming in the sea and I found a load of coins in the sea. You know, coins that you could spend today, modern coins. So I thought, wow, you know, I think I had the equivalent of 10 euros. This was about 15 years ago, but I had 10 euros, so that was good. I could buy some food. It was brilliant. That'd keep me going for the rest of the week. So I put them in my pocket on my trunks, right? And guess what I did? I went looking for more coins. So when I got to the shoreline, right? Guess what I had lost? All the money I had found. So the moral of the story is, don't be too greedy. The sea had given me that money. I should have kept it in my hand, and I should have swum back to the shore, and I would have been very happy, right? Strangely enough, I did manage to find some money in my wallet, but it was my own money, and I managed to survive for the next few days. Now back to the story of this lady, this very intriguing lady, is that it's very likely that if you had met the white lady and asked her a question, basically, look, you know, I don't want to take your money, right? What can I do for you? In God's name, what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And she would have probably pointed to this very river in front of you, which was then known as the OGMORE River, but it depends how old the ghost was at that point. She would have said, can you take these coins and throw them down the river, right? So they can be washed out to sea. Don't throw them upriver, because if you throw them upriver, you will be cursed. But if you throw them downriver, so the money is washed out to the sea and lost forever, right? You will have luck for the rest of your life. But unfortunately, nobody has ever asked the ghost what she would like done, because most of us are greedy. The moral of the story is that when you're given a gift, keep that gift and don't be too greedy. Don't ask for too much more in life. And that's the moral of that part of the story. So what I'd like to do now is I would like to have a little drink, which is in front of me, right? And it's getting very dark now, so it's great. So we've got to have a few spooky noises. Or we can even have, is this a real crow? No, it's not my crow, unfortunately. Now, where are
I've got spooky noises than you.
You got more spooky noises. Right, did you actually show them your doll?
Only Annabelle.
Do you like Annabelle, John and David?
No, she's a bit young for me.
My case is not big enough.
Now, there's two little other stories like I'd add to this, right? John, do you know you said you like going fishing, and you would like to go fishing alongside this river?
Yes.
Don't go at night time, because there's
Alright.
there's stories of particularly along the riverbank. There's stories of ghostly figures wandering along the riverbank, and these ghostly figures are not to be trusted. They're brigands and vagabonds, and it's likely that if you do see them, you need to leave that spot quickly. What we do know about the landscape is that these vagabonds are associated with wells, and there's a well a bit further along the road going towards Bridgend, and that well is apparently, when people went to the well, they would congregate around the well. As they would be taking a drink, somebody would come up behind them, take their possessions, knock you on the back of the head, and strip all the clothes off you, right? So, so you know, probably not to take water from a well within this landscape towards dusk time. Definitely not at night. And I'll tell you a little bit of a link story from Merthyr Mawr, Candleston. Back about 220, 230 years ago, about 1790, there were people who ran the New Inn, which is at Merthyr Mawr. And what would happen, people would visit the inn at Merthyr Mawr, called the New Inn, and they would stay there the night, and they would have a visit from the innkeeper. Some say was called Cap Koch. And after a visit from the innkeeper would say, "Would you like a drink?" And the person in the bedroom would say, "Yes." "Would you like another drink?" And in John's case, "Yes."
Definitely.
How about something a little bit more stronger? And slowly but surely, the individual would get so drunk that they didn't know what they were doing. And in some cases, they were pushed out the window and their neck was broken. Others, they would be strangled to death. Others would be poisoned to death. Never stay at the New Inn. It's not a place that you would like to spend a night. However, where were the bodies taken? The bodies were thrown into the River OGMORE, which is by where the New Inn once was, before they demolished it. And things were going well until a certain family bought the Merthyr Mawr estate, the Nichols family. And the lord of the manor of the Nichols family said, "If the owners of the New Inn are going to do this, I would like some recompense. I will help people to go to the New Inn, but I would like some of their things that you're taking off them, because after all, I own the New Inn now." So many bodies were being thrown into the OGMORE River that it was being noticed. And strangely enough, the owner of the Merthyr Mawr Manor was actually a lawyer. And he didn't want people to think that there were lots of bodies being washed up along the shore from the River OGMORE. People start to think, where are all these bodies coming from? What's happening? So they decided to bury the bodies around the Merthyr Mawr estate. But you know what? For more about that story and the ghosts, we'll be doing a Merthyr Mawr evening in the near future as part of my series of talks. Now, the only other thing we need to look at tonight is the story associated with the well at Pant Flanders. Now, further on from the castle, going towards OGMORE by sea, inland a little bit from the road, is a well called Pant Mary Flanders. And you've got to walk through these old sand dune type things along a path, but you must never go to the well at night. And why should you never go to the well at night? Which stupid idiot amongst us decided to take a ghost walk to Pant Mary Flanders at night? Me.
John.
And when I decided to take a ghost walk to Pant Mary Flanders at night, I got everyone lost because I took the wrong footpath. And then eventually we found the footpath and got to the well at Pant Mary Flanders. And when we got down to the well, I went down to the well and started drinking the water. But I didn't know that there was a dead sheep in the water as somebody shined the torch onto the sheep.
Oh my God.
I thought the water tasted a bit strange. Anyway, on the way back from Mary Flanders, I said to everybody, go ahead of me and I will catch you up. A very, very bad mistake. Because on the way back, I took the wrong footpath and got completely lost. I then realized that I'd got back to where I started. So I followed a light and I got very lost again. And again, Amy, you should never follow lights in the dark, should you? It's not a good idea.
Why?
We will tell you about why towards the end of this story. Eventually, I got back to everybody, and an hour had passed, and most of the people on the walk had already gone. And Michelle was with me that evening, and she said, "Where had you gone?" I said, "I don't know. I got completely lost." So the pièce de résistance tonight is to tell you about fairies. David, do you know how you can really how you can make Courtney stop talking?
Oh, well, no.
Do you want me to tell you a little ruse that I tried, right? And then I'll tell you where the facts are. Many years and years ago, while I used to live in Bombleston, my daughter, my eldest youngest daughter back then, Bethan, and then my son Owen, and then my other little daughter Emily, we went for a walk at night. And they were very chatty and they wouldn't shut up, and they did the usual children thing. I want you to go to bed. No, we're not going to bed, Daddy. You know the thing, David, don't you? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I took them down this lane and they didn't stop talking. It was pitch black. And I said, "Do you see those lights over there?" They said, yeah, Daddy. I said, "If you don't stop talking, right, those lights will go out. And if we're not careful, the fairy folk will capture us and turn us into stone," right? They didn't believe their daddy, did they? As we went around the corner, all the lights had gone out. And then my children had realized that it was the fairy folk that had turned their lights out. And if we weren't careful, they were going to capture my children and turn them into stone. At that moment, two of my children screamed, ran all the way home, jumped into bed, crying their eyes out, right? And it worked, David.
Oh, there you are. Let's give that a go.
Yeah, I think you should give it a go. So just one last thing. The reason, one interesting thing about the fairy folk is that Magnus Magnusson writes a lot about this, and Magnus Magnusson tells us in his stories of the Scandinavian sagas that if you look into the woods, you can occasionally see lights, particularly around marshland and bogland, something known as will-o'-the-wisp. You must never follow that light, because it's said that those lights are meant to entice you into the bogland. And lots of people have been said to disappear when they follow the lights in the marsh. And it's said that those lights are fairy lights. So the moral of the story is, whenever you go along a footpath, keep to that footpath, never go off that footpath, and never follow the lights, because it could be the fairy folk. I'd like to round up by saying that OGMORE Castle is a fascinating castle. Go there in the daytime, in about 2 or 3 months' time when you're able to. David, never park in the car park by the river. Park in the pub further up the road. If you take Grandad will probably have a drink in the pub and you will all be fine. With OGMORE Castle, it's a fascinating castle. Even the moats around the castle do fill with water. And one interesting fact is that the castle was actually built by a Welsh prince sometime in the 1000s. Then the Normans got to the area about 1106 and they captured the castle, and it was made into a Norman stone keep and a Norman stone castle. It's in a strange location because it's below a hill. The Welsh used to build their castles in strange places. And the Normans probably always regretted building the castle because it was a damp, not a very nice castle to actually live in. And just be very careful of those ghostly figures, those brigands, those vagabonds that will take everything from you if you go fishing late at night or you go to the well to drink. So, are there any questions on that tonight?
No, I don't think so. You got any questions?
Where's the white lady? Like a lady.
Well,
The people.
well, the white lady is meant to be in this building here. But the thing is, I think with lots of ghost stories, if you treat a ghost in a nice way, if you're very polite to a ghost will be very nice to you. But you've got to say in God's name, or you've got to say, how can I help you? And you've got to do exactly what the ghost tells you to do. Some ghosts.
What if it says like the mum? I wouldn't do
that?
that.
No. Shut up, Lex.
So lots of things about ghosts is that she was probably seen taking her money and putting her into the wall. But she wanted to probably take the money somewhere else, and it would have been too much of a thing for a ghost to do. So she probably, if you ever see the ghost at the castle, do exactly what she tells you to do. And then you'll have good luck for the rest of your life. You might even win the national lottery, like John has. So, right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to ask if there's any other questions. Have you got any questions, John?
Well, you did, and this is a bit not kiddie stuff really, it's a bit more like it was, but you did say that this travelling adjudicator only came every couple of months. So what did they do with the likes of Alexia that had stolen the bread until the judge arrived?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, that's a question that I've never been asked, and there's a simple answer. The Lord of the Manor would have presided over that court himself, and I'm sure it would have been the Lord of the Manor would have probably thought, right, do I need Alexia to work on the field next year to get to, do I need Alexia to work to bring the crops in at harvest time? Is Alexia a bit of a pain in the backside? Do I like Alexia or don't? He could actually preside justice. He could probably make up a story that she's been falsely accused, like I did. Justice back then was make it up as you go along. The fact of the matter is there weren't prisons, and if you keep somebody in a prison, you've got to feed them. And feeding somebody is if you're going to feed somebody grain, you could pay that grain in taxes to the king, or you could use it to sell to for crops or whatever. So there just simply weren't prisons back then. It just didn't happen. There's one occasion, this is a rather interesting story, in the middle part of the 1700s in Lantwick Major. They gathered everybody together in Lantwick Major who they thought had done something wrong. And Lantwick Major had some sort of cells at Bovington Castle anyway, so there was a little bit of a prison there in the mid-1700s. But then they rounded everybody up. And in one single day, we've got references to 100 people being hung in Lantwick Major alone.
Good God.
Just one single day. And people used to look forward to this. And they used to, it used to usually happen on a Sunday. So people used to go to church on a Sunday morning. And then in a Sunday afternoon, they used to gather, and they used to, even their own children, they would celebrate the death of their own children because it was entertainment.
Really? I wouldn't celebrate your death.
No, God, no.
So any other questions, John? And then I will ask Alexia and David.
No, I can't think of any other than how much is it going to cost me, but you can tell me that later.
What I'll do, I'll have a word with you, John, after this. So David and Alexia, any questions?
Magnus Magnusson.
Love him.
I've heard that. Yes, I've heard that name several times before, but I don't think it would be relevant to what you were saying. Is there a popular name or something? Was it? Is there
No,
like
it's every relevant. Magnus Magnusson was the host of Mastermind. He was also an academic scholar in history, and he was quite a good archaeologist as well. And he also presented a series called Horizon in the 1970s, early 80s. And when I was Alexia's age, my parents gave me a tape recorder, right? And I went to the Barry Library to get some tapes out. And one of the two tapes I got, one was Lost Horizons, which is where a plane comes down in Tibet and you know, people sort of go to a lamasery and sort of live a long age. And then the other one I got was actually a story by Magnus Magnusson, stories about folk stories. And I listened to that and I was intrigued. And lots of the stuff that I do tell about fairies actually comes from him.
Yeah.
Because they were actually written down. So if you can't get any of Magnus Magnusson's listening tapes online anymore, but if you are lucky enough to try and get a CD or one of his books, is well worth it. Best thing to do is buy Grandad Alexia, buy Grandad a book by Magnus Magnusson for Christmas, right, on history and archaeology. When he's finished with it, your dad can read it.
Yeah. Around, so it's a free book for me.
Exactly. So have you?
Questions?
I haven't got Amy.
No.
Oh, okay then. You want to ask Amy something?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, go on.
Go for it.
How do you get the dolls? Do you just?
How did I get them?
Yeah.
I've been collecting them since I was around your age or maybe younger.
And why is Grandad laughing at me?
Amy's accent more than anything else. Being
My
a
accent?
Northerner, she's really into the Welshness.
Anyways, Grandad.
Yes.
No, I'm not asking you.
Okay, yeah. What else?
I wanted to ask you, you know the one that you showed us earlier?
Yeah, Annabelle.
The big one.
Yeah.
No, the big one.
The big one?
Door.
The ghost?
Yeah.
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 Was that was
Sorry? Oh, the sound's going on my phone. Yeah, I can hear you.
Was that one a special one to you? Did that one for it to be on your door?
No, that's on my wardrobe. But she's just like a Halloween decoration, but I just like her up there because she looks like a banshee. So yeah, she stays there and watches over my wardrobe for me.
And I have one more question as well.
And she makes a scary sound too, which I like. So.
On cue there, Carl.
Yeah, I got it.
And my last question is, why do you like them so much?
I just do. I'm not scared of them, and they're better than a lot of people.
They can't talk back either, can they?
No, they can't talk back, no.
I wish John in my classes wouldn't talk back either.
A good point. Why does that?
Right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to ask, does everyone want to join us next week?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, well, there you go then. We got a fan already, and John.
Oh. Cheers, Dad.
No.
Well,
How does Alexia feel about it?
What?
How does Alexia feel about
I
it?
said yeah.
Yes, you
Good.
annoying man, you.
Thanks, Grandad.
I don't think it's Courtney's cup of tea, however. I think she's a bit young, possibly.
Yeah.
And maybe, Carl, if you'll let me,
Yeah, go on.
would you let me do a little ritual, child-friendly ritual next week?
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. You can. That would be fine. That would be fine.
Okay, there we
Uh,
go.
Oh, you another
If I
question,
could
eh?
just say to Amy,
Yeah, go on.
Mm.
the
What's the
South
ritual?
Wales District Council are looking for somebody to do an online service. Perhaps you could contact Sandra Gerald and say you would be willing to do it.
Yes, which area is that, sorry?
South Wales.
Exact location?
Mhm. Well, it's governed by the SNU in Cardiff, isn't it?
Cardiff, that's an hour away from me. Yeah, I'll have a look into it. What sort of service does he want?
Clairvoyance.
Clairvoyance. Okay, I can try because I'm pretty new. I'm not actually a clairvoyant. I'm a demonologist. So
I don't think it'll go down too well, actually, but there we are.
yeah. So
No.
but if you want to pass on some details to Carl and he can pass them on to me, that's fine.
Right. Okay, Amy. Thank you.
You're
Right.
welcome.
Okay, on that note, the best thing to do, David, it's been great seeing you, and Alexia, right? So we'll see you next week at 7 o'clock. So the way this works is if Alexia and Courtney, if you can sort of press the end meeting button. If you haven't got anything else today, I say, have you all enjoyed it tonight?
Yes, I did. Yes, it's
Good.
something different. And in these times, it's nice to do something different, you know what I mean? And learn something at the same time.
And Grandad's paying for it as well, so it's great.
Even better, yeah.
Right. Thank you.
So,
All right, thank you very much.
right, okay, what I'm going to say is night-night, Alexia and David. I'll see you next week. Bye.
I can just say it's good how you've put a bit of history into it and archaeology to interest me as well as the kids. It's an all-rounder, really. Now, I think in that respect, you've done well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, might be worth talking to the local schools, mind.
Well, obviously after this, yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You never know. Could be another opportunity for you there.
Exactly. We're always into opportunity. When you think about it, 3 weeks ago, we you know, the thing is, people, this is a new thing. People like to be out and about. So we just have to see how this goes.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
Thank you very much. Night, David and Alexia. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Night, you two. So, right. So, John, was that worth it, John?
Carl, I think you did very well.
Thank you.
I mean, you made it just as much of interest to me as you did Alexia. I think he was too much for Courtney. She's too young, and sadly that fell by the wayside. But yeah, Alexia was fine, and
yeah.
I don't know whether we could drag Peyton in on this, but it's all this mixing of people in it. So perhaps for a while, that's something we need to put on the back burner unless we can get Peyton to do it from home. But our parents are going to have to pay for that.
Fair enough. So I think Amy next week. I think the aim for next week is to try and get another person online. That'd be great.
Yeah, Sophie should be. She's not very well this week, but she should be next week now.
Okay. Right. Okay. Then not a problem. Before you sign off, Amy, is there anything else you want to say?
I just want to say thank you for saving the business, really, because I was really upset when I heard that it might not be anything anymore. And, you know, it's just something that I can finally relate to, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, I think really in many ways, this is why David has been sympathetic, because he's very much in the same boat. because he's had cancellation after cancellation because he's a kitchen fitter, bedroom fitter, toilet fitter, anything else you want to mention. And people have just cancelled left, right, and left, same as they have with you, Karl, for anything outdoors.
Yeah,
I think
yeah. The good thing is we got our 30 students on board who have signed up for the and we got the likes of you and we still got Mike and a couple of other people still doing stuff, and we've done that. It's obviously the ghost side of things. We got to do something with that to tick things over, and this is what this is. And apparently somebody phoned me earlier on. They said, I'd had the newspapers are so desperate for letters at this minute, right? I had 2 letters printed in the same newspaper alongside each other. And it was basically about how bad it is with people being self-employed and all the rest of it.
yeah.
And but the thing is, you've got to I've got to we've got a busy week now with Archaeology Cymru, and that's the way it's going to go. So what I'm going to...
Well, I'm pleased it's working out for you, Karl, and that's good news. Anyway, hit me with the bad news. How much would you want for tonight?
How much was this supposed to be?
Well, as I understand it, £5 per household, and I was happy to subsidise 2. Makes it a tenner, but you might think that's unreasonable because we got Courtney and David, but I don't know.
Oh, it really depends, John, because that's a difficult one, because we didn't expect to have so many, did we? So it's definitely a no for Courtney because she left.
Yes. She's still young. She's only 5. Don't mean anything to her.
So that is a problem area, John, because what I said was that anyone taking part, we have to work out. But it really, right, John. If this is an awkward one. It's either 10 or 15, depending on how it falls.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't suppose David really wanted to be there, but he was so dubious about what was going to happen. He felt he had to be present, I suppose. But okay, I think David picked up on it quite well, and he enjoyed it as much as I did. So I'll put 15 in if you're happy with that.
If you do that, John, that'd be appreciated. Every penny helps, and I'll yes, and we'll try and get more next week. That'll be good.
Right, I'll put 15 into in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, thanks for that, John. John,
My
you'll be rewarded in dispatches.
Well, let's hope so.
And John, and we'll see you on Tuesday as well with the I got to be honest with you, John. Right, I appreciate you taking part this evening. I can't change the technology over for Tuesday evening, but is this far more superior than Skype? I believe it is.
Yes, I think it is, but I can't get the pictures any bigger. But I mean, I can see what I'm looking at, but maybe with experience, I might be able to make it bigger. And on the right-hand side, I've got a column with who's participating, and if that can go,
you move it. You can move it. If you click onto the grey area above my head, not the bars, right? You can move it around the screen like I'm doing now.
View options, you mean?
No, well, it might be a different. You can if you put the cursor. If you put the cursor above that,
yeah. That's better. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've done it. Yeah,
Brilliant.
That's got rid of participants. Yeah, and I've got a bigger picture of the castle. Yeah.
Well, you've done it. You've answered the thing. So,
well, thanks to you. But yeah, castle, yeah, I got to go and see that when times get better.
Yes.
But I have been a bit naughty, Carl, in that I have done some travelling around, but I've never got out the car. I mean, I've been up to Raglan today. There's a beautiful farm shop there, and it sells excellent meat, vegetables, and whatever you want. And I've been there today. I mean, I've been a bit naughty, I suppose, but...
Oh, they were still selling stuff up there?
Oh, yeah. And it's a nice area to meet. And on the way there, if you take the turn off from for... Oh, God, what's the name of the place?
Ross on Wye?
Well, you went to the castle. No.
I know what you mean.
No, you don't.
Don't I?
Where your son lives.
Ask.
Yeah. Take the turn off for us,
Yeah.
off the carriageway.
Yeah.
But there, go straight across it and turn right for the sign that says Chepstow.
Right. Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. You bear left a couple of miles down there. You go past Usk Gliding Club, and then eventually you come to Raglan Farm Shop. And they'll be very pleased to see you. And the meat from there is absolutely fantastic. But yeah, it costs a bit more. But well, so what? So long as you're getting something tidy, you don't really mind, do you? And we had some shin beef from there as well. And we had a cracking stew made out of it. It was absolutely wonderful. So yeah, I can't fault the place. And well, I suppose they're self-employed, so they're thankful for anything they can get, same as David and you are, I suppose.
True. Okay then, John. I appreciate that. I'm gonna dash now because I've got some AC stuff to get on with. So appreciate that, John, and I will see you Tuesday. If you haven't got anything else you want to ask me, John?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, then, brilliant. Well, I'm going to love you and leave you, John. Right, so if you can close yours, and I'll just have a quick then chat with Amy, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks for your support, John. I will see you Tuesday, and we'll do this next Sunday as well.
Okay.
No, thanks for that, John. No. Right.
Okay.
Go on, Amy.
Right, we're alone. Well, I think that was good considering we had little ones there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I know it's my steak next week now, isn't it? So.
Oh, fuck, yeah. Oh, Christ.
Sorry, Annabelle.
That's going to be you.
That's
going to be you. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll sort it out.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, that was good. That was, it's something to do, isn't it, in times like these. So.
Right. Amy, I'll get a chuck of $5 your way, okay?
Oh, thank you.
So you can still say you're getting paid to do something.
Woohoo! I know I'm not getting any sales on my Etsy shop, so yeah.
Okay, we'll chuck a $5 through, okay?
Thank you.
Right, any questions before I dash?
No, I think I'm clear with anything. If I do come up with a question, I'll send you an email. Okay,
then, brilliant. All right, then, I will. I'll close this down now, and I will see you next week. Brilliant.
Yeah, see you next week. Awesome. Okay, see ya.
Take care, Amy.
Good night.
Night. Bye-bye.
Leave.
Hopefully everybody enjoyed that. This is KARL-JAMES LANGFORD. Sorry about the admin talk there. And we'll go from there. Thank you very much. Bye.